John Tommy Rosas with Tattn Media Productions, making another video about the Baiona Wetlands Ecological Reserve, DEIS, DEIR graphics and the defects in them. I'm going to start with the grading plan, just an overview of just a couple of details. These lines right here are the levees. These are main levees that go against basically Fiji Way all the way to Lincoln. There's Lincoln right here, PCH. And then that levee will continue from Culver against where the channel is now, basically where the bridge starts. It's going to wrap around and go this way. I don't know why they have a levee here unless they've got two levees, but they're going to stockpile material here. They have it here and here, but this is confusing. It may be a raised area, so that may be like a double levee, extra wide. That's about 200 feet across. Anyway, here's the main levee that's on the north side and northwest side of Culver. It goes through there all the way down to here to the channel. And they're cutting out the existing channel from here all the way to here, basically, right here. And here's Lincoln, so there'll be about 200 feet of channel, but you will not see the wetlands anymore, except a shot through here, and you won't see it from the road because these levees are 25 to 30 feet above the road in varying lengths. They have to be level, and the ground isn't level, so there's a miscalculation by them on their cross sections, and I'll get into that, where they have different levels, including the water level. On the restoration alternative 1, and this is a grading plan for alternative 1, even though these drawings were done in 2012 and before, and 2013 updated. So this was after, just as a note, this was after the notice was out for the EIS, so they changed the drawings even after the notice went out, and they worked for 5 years, so a lot of work had been done. But the you know, it's whatever. It's just some details. Anyway, the main grading is going to be in Area A, which is across here. That's where the channel would be now, and then all the material from Lincoln to Fiji Way all the way around, basically around the south end of the marina. And then they're going to carve out and excavate and apparently remound it. They're going to leave SoCal Gas's thing here for some reason, and historically that's the only place the salt pan existed. There was no salt pan or no saltwater intrusion in this area, and that's what they'll do when they perform this, if we let them have that agenda and that alternative. Excuse me. So what I'm explaining here is how much material they're going to take out and move. They call it relocating, but I know that they told me personally that that was Mary Small and some other people at a meeting about almost 9 years ago, that they were planning on selling the dirt to the port, so the port could build larger sip berths in the San Pedro Bay. They use steel, Tugman steel, corrugated, and then they pump out the water and they fill it with dirt and they create a big ship berth. They've done those before. They're basically artificial islands, but I have plans that show their haul routes and how they're going to barge it down the channel and then tugboat it to San Pedro and the port of LA, but because that's the only way they would get that much dirt. The report's calculations are just under 3 million cubic yards. So a cubic yard is a yard cubed. If you picture that much material, they're talking about 3 million of those. And basically, that's a square mile, 10 feet tall of dirt, if you want to do your own math. But it's just to give you amount of material. And that's why this is off, because if they do this excavation and this formation that they're talking about and all this material, my math is that it's closer to 6 on the low end and 9 on the high end. So figure 7 in between to 8. So it's double and a half more than they're talking about. So especially when they're talking about stockpiling here on Area C north and Area C south, and stockpiling some of these other areas. But there's a lot of material that's going to have to be moved around, and they don't talk about how they're going to deal with all the animals and habitat that's here now existing. So that's another issue I have. But anyway, this is mostly about the grading and how much material you're going to move. These lines are contour lines, and so they're saying this is the very bottom, but I'm saying that the water will be always at a height around this middle line right here between just below the levee starts, these embankments. So this will all be full of water. This creek thing they have at the bottom is ridiculous, because the tide goes way past Centinela if the people live around here, and that elevation will fill all this up. So this is, again, like I stated before in the first video about this is about a tsunami zone and a tsunami protection area for Playa Vista, which they conveniently widened out right here. The Playa Vista development's right here. They showed all the harbor infrastructure, but they widened out Playa Vista for whatever reason, like they did before. They were putting legends and things and covering up Playa Vista. But that's the only reason they would have a containment area for a tsunami coming right through the channel in the harbor inlet, which is a good low area for a tsunami to come through, either from the southwest, the west, or the northwest, which are the strongest potentials for tsunami occurring between 3 to 30 feet, like we witnessed in Japan. Now, these heights, and what they learned in Japan is that the surge wasn't calculated, and so a lot of those Japanese tsunami walls and bulkheads that were built in failed, and then the water got trapped behind them. And so what they're hoping for is the tsunami's going to come through here, get diverted, and then some of it will go through here and then be diverted in this catch basin, the detention basin, and then a balance of it will shoot up the channel, which will be still there. And that will virtually protect all the new development, especially the commercial development in Playa Vista that's there now, billions and billions of dollars of industrial and commercial companies. There's a lot of big time, everyone that made a deal with them is there now, including LMU now, and they were part of the scientific committee, the so-called one allegedly, that came up with a lot of this falsified information and so-called scientific data. A lot of it will be disproven in my testimony. It'll be a declaratory testimony with graphics and a lot of historical information I have. So anyway, this is the excavation plan. I haven't altered it. This is their exact plan. It's in the DEIS. So I'm going to go to the next one. This is the grading cross-section of the new levees. And there won't be any trees this close. It's not allowed under the Army Corps levee thing, but it's misleading that they're going to plant this. Most of this will be in salt water, or the ground will be contaminated by saltwater intrusion, which it's never had before, and nothing's going to grow there except maybe kelp and some of those grasses that grow like they have at Oxford Detention Basin. So this is a side view. They're showing this at about 15 feet, which there's no place in the whole drawings that we looked at on this one that show that it's 15 feet, so that's falsified. This is 20 to 25 at a minimum that it has to be, and then that depends on the grade that's existing. So it's misleading, but regardless, at the base of any of those levees, there's going to be about 10 feet to 15 feet of water up, straight up. So that's why this won't work even for a tsunami protection, because that only leaves, that water will still be there, and then the tsunami goes over it, and then a 3-meter tsunami will top it. So, and that isn't even figuring the surge and everything. So this isn't even going to work for a tsunami thing for Playa Vista's flood control project, since they built in the wetlands. Here is the third page, which is the cross sections of the temporary fill, the stone or soil cement reinforcement they're going to have to put in, the grades that jump all around. You see different grades here. They're showing the Fiji Way side, being 5 and 6 to 1 ratio. That's because the levees, like it says here, the levees have to be that angle now because of Katrina. So they can no longer put in the steep ones like were first planned, that I pointed out weren't compliant to the Army Corps regulations. And so they've had to make these larger. And some of these, as you can see here, it's 120 feet. And then if you add another 30 feet or 50 feet right here, that's 170. And then there's another, probably 75 feet. Some of these are almost 300 feet wide in total. And then they show this falsified drawing of the channel, but the elevation's way off. The tide can move 10 feet with extreme low to extreme high, and they have it at 9, but it's closer to 10 or 11. And they're showing it like if they dig it deeper, the sea level's going to drop with it, which isn't true. The sea level's going to remain the same. They could dig it 100 feet. The ocean's not going to run out of water. It's going to fill it up. So the true elevation is more like I said, that water's going to be up in here. It's this is misleading, and they have it broken off here. This one's more accurate, but they show the water going up at 5 to 1, but it's going to be even higher than that. And even here they show it at about 11 feet, like I was saying. But their baseline is way off because that's the one they're going to dig down, and that's irrelevant to the regular low and high tide and how that will move up. And that they also based it on a south swell variation, which we hardly have, and or have hardly any effects from that because of the way the bay is facing, and Palos Verdes pretty much blocks it off. So they didn't do any southwest swell, west swell, or northwest swell variants, which will shoot more water in naturally from storm swell and wind-driven waves. So, and those can be 10 to 15 feet. So this hasn't been presented properly, and I think it's been done intentionally and purposely to accelerate and demonstrate that their agenda can justify this. The other thing I want to point out, these areas never had salt water, none of them. So in doing this, they're also generating a large amount of contaminated area that can never be restored to fresh water. That's existing there now and always has. If you saw the first video, it showed the saltwater boundary and the freshwater boundary, and I'm going to make a video on that, but I'm just bringing that point up that these will be wrecked forever, and nothing's going to live here, including all the animals that will be killed or lost to roadkill or try to move, or they're going to trap them, which will be basically killing them. So there's no wildlife solution on this. There's no created wildlife corridors, and all of this will be a huge violation to the Migratory Bird Treaty. That's international. So that's another international law and federal law that I'll be using to stop this alternative 1, alternative 2, or even 3 action. Our tribal preference is the fresh water just being restored to the land as it's existing, put some pipes in and pump it in there, purify the water from the Playa Vista freshwater forests, and then possibly from the county's new 3 disinfecting clean water stations. Instead of taking it to Hyperion, they'll bring it to down the channel and run it through that same Driscoll pipe and can dump it into Area C, both sides, Area A and part of B. And I'll do a whole video on that with some graphics. I'm working on that. But anyway, let's go to the next one. So this is another elevation that they're trying to show is going to work on Area A. The scale's so far off, it's really not usable, but it's intentionally out of scale. I mean, the scale here, you have to realize, is miles. So to have it on sorry. The scale is way off, and it's not even enough that you can make a good representation of it or understanding of it. These amounts, a pencil line is basically 2 feet thick. So that's the problem with the scale on these. Just keep that in mind. Excuse me. So this is another one where that shows the amount of material they're going to take out, way out of scale. That doesn't look like much, but that's about 10 feet below or more of Area A, and that's a lot of material. It's just a lot. Even this, there's no place that exists in Area A like this. So I don't know where they're getting this section. You know, it just, the Area A is below the levee. So here's the levee on the south side. They're not showing the levee on the north side of the channel. And to show this like this is insane, except that even the buildup that they're proposing isn't this large. So a lot of these are misrepresentations, and they have a lot of explaining to do why they did them, and then they did them in this poor scale. So I'm going to jump to this one. Now we're back to the restoration Alt 1 plan. And so some of the things I was talking about, you can see in a little bit more of their coloring. These are their original ones. I'm not altering them. But you can see that this is supposed to be the flow right here. It even says it. There's no flow there because it's full of seawater. And they don't show that. And this is very misleading. It's completely false. The flow, there's no flow down Ballona Creek except for a storm. And the salt water is still way the hell up here. And salt water doesn't mix with fresh water very easily. So the fresh water is always on top. But they're not showing the true seawater level, which is going to be most of this green. This will all be seawater. from here, all this green will be seawater at low tide, and it will go all the way to this darker green line change. This will all be salt water on high tides and storms. And then if there is a storm event coming down the channel, then it'll be on top of this. But this will never, ever occur because of the salt water and the tide change. And they don't show at all on these drawings a tidal prism, which is basically the difference of the high tide and the low tide, and it creates a triangular prism that goes up this long, slow grade. So, and the ones they do talk about is not accurate in my view. But anyway, that's my 2 bits on that. But this is the problem where they've misleaded the public in these graphics, and including the flow and the falsification of what these are. You know, if let's say they have it with no tide and there is a flow here, then how are these supposed to work? I mean, these have to be even lower for the water to go down there, which isn't shown on their drawings. So it's just not, it's not even close to being accurate. It's just pathetic. But for $12 million plus that Mary Small from the Coastal Conservancy spent on this, with her agenda to deal with Playa Vista's, which was right here, their flood control and tsunami zone issues. And like I said before, the only beneficial use is this this detention basin for Playa Vista to get less, you know, get their flood insurance cheaper and have some tsunami protection, which they're going to start making people get in tsunami insurance, or they need to try to get it because of all the commercial and residential interests they got here. But when they talk about, and Mary Small talked about to me and tried to justify this, you know, 10 years ago, that it was about sea level rise. Well, they're exaggerating that because this is increasing the impacts of sea level rise by letting more seawater in now. I mean, this is making it worse than if we wait for the sea level to rise, and it's not going to affect this. If the channel's there, it'll just keep going up the channel higher. It won't contaminate all this area that never had seawater before into a saltwater intruded area, and it'll also affect the aquifers. And I know that when they cored the 265 holes out here to justify this, they found groundwater, especially in this area where the historic freshwater wetlands and marsh was, that the levels even now are 5 to 10 feet. So it also kind of shoots down their fill falsification of the current status of that land, because the groundwater wouldn't be that close. If they're saying there's 20 foot of fill, like she's told me, and they show on their graphics, well, why is the groundwater 5 feet away? That isn't artesian water. It's a still part of a existing shallow aquifer that's fresh water. And again, if they put the seawater in, they're going to contaminate it. But anyway, that's my 2 bits on this one. So thank you.